Well, we are now on part 3. This time, I'm going to discuss the concepts of high control groups, and one of the things they say is replacement of the person. So one of the things that Hale Bopp talked about was the body as a container or vehicle to board the craft. Behind the Hale Bopp comet, one had to shed all human identity and everything, and family ties. So gender, hair, personality, and family ties. Okay. Verk Troya, the performer, is also taught that their body is a vessel for the composer's intent. Any personality in the playing is seen as a smudge in the window. The link. Both systems treat the human being as a utility. Jeremiah's followers in Grey 17 weren't people, they were part of the level. In music, if you aren't an invisible conduit, you are a heretic to the score. The management of physical suffering. This is the Zarg in the walls, one of the things that came up when I put this into Gemini. Okay, Jonestown, physical exhaustion and sleep deprivation were used to break the ego. Pain was a sign of the old self, was resisting the so-called paradise that Jim Jones created. The Verk Troya Zarg, as you noted, the Zarg is the injury when the violinist develops movement issues. The system fails it as a failure of the performer's technique or lack of discipline rather than a structural flaw. I wouldn't say failure of performer's technique. What I would say for that is use. Rather than a structural flaw in the demand for machine-like precision. The link, like Jeremiah's followers, normalizing the predator, the performer is taught to play through the pain for the sake of the work. The injury is the Zarg eating you, but the high priest, the system, tells you the Zarg belongs there. Again, I'm going to reiterate this after studying injury preventative keyboard technique with Dr. Lister Sink, that your notes that you play are like gym reps. So the missing level as a control mechanism. Control is maintained by convincing the subject that they are living in a reality that only the leader can interpret. Jeremiah, he controls Grey 17 because he's the only one who sees the truth of the deleted floor. Jim Jones, he creates a quote-unquote missing level of political and spiritual reality where only he could protect his followers from a nuclear apocalypse or takeover or what have you. The Verk Troya scholar. The Urtext, the original unedited score, often functions as the secret floor. The performer is told, you cannot understand what Beethoven wanted, only the scholar conductor who has studied the missing levels of history can tell you how to breathe. Which I want to say practice is good, but it can be taken too far when it's deified. Mostly in the context of concert music. Okay. Comparative analysis, high control frameworks, feature Jim Jones, Heaven's Gate. Okay. The body is a container or shell to be used. The authority, the prophet, Jones Applewhite, the enemy, the outside world, the sacrifice, obvious. Okay. Jeremiah, the body is a part of the station's architecture. Jeremiah is the founder and authority. The enemy is the blueprints, and the sacrifice is being eaten by the Zarg. The Verk Troya cult. 1. A machine or transparent window, the composer's intent, or mediated by the conductor. The enemy is interpretation or self-expression, and the sacrifice is physical collapse and burnout. The Jonestown of the concert hall show the most chilling similarity is the willingness to disappear. In Jonestown, the followers believed they were dying for a greater good, that they would live on after them. An extreme application of the Werktreuer, the performer is asked to die metaphorically, and artistically, so that the work they can live in its purest form. The performer becomes a Grey 17 inhabitant. They are physically present during the work, sweating and bleeding, but they have been deleted from the aesthetic map. When the audience looks at the stage, they are trained to see only the work, effectively making the human on stage a ghost. It is fascinating to see how both Liszt and Rachmaninoff... Oh, this is the answer to having a Zarg-free style as a composer-performer. It is fascinating to see how both Liszt and Rachmaninoff were essentially rebels against the established musical orders of their respective times. Not established. I'd say they were doing more of the older style composer-performer. While we often view them as gold standard of classical tradition today, they both face significant pushback for refusing to conform to the proper ways of performing and composing. Here's the breakdown of how they resisted the norms of their eras. Okay, solo recital with Liszt, and then memorization as defiance, symphonic piano. That's one way. Okay, Rachmaninoff, old-fashioned modernism, modernist, not... Okay, so Rachmaninoff's resistance was different. He lived through the rise of modernism. Oh, atonality. In 12-tone music, you cannot ornament, you cannot have a cadenza. This is very big, because it breaks up the structure of the row. This is something big. I know that I'm going to eventually look at Lydia Gurr, who I previously mentioned, because I went to Google Scholar and looked up Lydia Gurr Werktreuer. There is a whole slew of sources pointing to Lydia Gurr's work involving Werktreuer. Defying the vanguard, Rachmaninoff had more lush harmonies. He was seen as a dinosaur or a popularizer whose music lacked intellectual depth because it was too pleasing to the ear. The flexibility of the score, recordings of his own score, Rachmaninoff playing his own work, show that he frequently deviated from his written score. He prioritized the architectural point, the emotional climax of the piece, over strict adherence to the notes on the page in an era where the score was being deified for concert music. His improvisational flexibility was quite an active rebellion. Okay, physical versus conformity. Because of his massive hand span, he could reach a 13th. I can do a 10th on the piano. Maybe if it's on a smaller instrument with smaller keys, I could do a 13th. His music was physically impossible for the average pianist. He didn't challenge others out of spite. He wrote for his own unique physiology, resisting the idea that piano music should be standardized for the general performer. Wow. Okay, comparison of resistance. Okay. Liszt is traditional salon modesty and quiet playing. Key innovation, playing from memory. Rachmaninoff, the clinical coldness of modern atonal music. That was his primary target. Okay, key innovation, prioritizing emotional architecture over the score. Critical backlash was old-fashioned and populist. Oh, it is a bit ironic that the very things they were criticized for are exactly why they remain so loved today. Wow. Wow. Well, thank you, everyone. This is the final episode I'm doing on why this is like a cult. The final episode after this, I want to explore how to escape the you compose, we perform cult mindset. I want to explore that. So take care and thank you.